Everybody, welcome back to Woodworking Wisdom. My name's Colwin Way, and today is Resin Day. I want to say it's led by one of your suggestions, but it was a long time ago. But you may or may not know this. Today is International Pencil Day. I never realised there was such a day until we started looking. But every year on the 30th of March, it is the same day, International Pencil Day. So there we are. It gives us an excuse to play around with some coloured pencils. This little project is one of Craig's. Remember Craig way back? Craig Steele. This is one of his favourite projects. Now, Craig used to do all of our woodworking machinery demonstrations. And so this is one of his favorites. His 55th birthday coming up. So I thought I'd make him a little vase just to celebrate, as he loves anything resin and pencil crayons. So that's what we're going to do. I've got Ben behind the cameras. He's switching and asking me questions and things like that. So you know the form. If there's anything you want to know, if I've skipped across something and assumed you might know, just ask me the question and we'll see if we can answer. This little project here, the way resin works, you've got to leave it to harden for several days. So I can't do the pour, then turn it. So we have got some pictures to show you in a second. But basically, this one is cast with ECOPOXY resin, and we've put the links for you on the video. And it's a 50-50 mix. You mix in whatever color you want, and I've used the mica powders. And this one's a blue, of electric blue color. So we may not see too much of that color in the finished vase, purely because there's only small amounts of resin. I've also had to use a pressure pot. And the reason I've used the pressure pot here is trying to get that resin in amongst those pencils. And I've cut a slice off just to show you here. So before we go to the main shots, now you can see there's hardly any gap between those pencils. So trying to push resin deep into those, I needed some pressure, and so that's why we've used the pressure pot. Okay, you don't always need to use it. Just be aware, if you don't use things like pressure pots, if there are small voids, they will still be voids. And also, you might get some bubbles inside as well. So pressure pots just shrink those voids to nothingness, so the resin can get in there. That's why we use pressure. So I'm sure that's going to throw up lots and lots of questions. There may be a few little things today. I'm wearing a visor because I don't know what's going to happen here. We might get halfway through the piece and it explode. So I want to make sure that I can still come and demonstrate for you next week. So I'm wearing the visor just to protect myself, as opposed to just goggles. And the only reason I normally wear goggles when I'm demonstrating to you guys live is so you can hear. This microphone doesn't act well with a visor. So you get the idea. There is potential that we may have a few rustles and hisses and things like that today, but only for my protection. That's the reason we're doing it. So a little bit of an outline. Ben, could you just pop up those pictures, and I'll talk through those pictures as we look at them. So there we are. That was basically what I'd done, because to buy molds to do this sort of thing, there's nothing off the shelf you can buy. So buckets and tubs and all those things. I've used a couple of mixing tubs, and all I've done is just sort of hot melt glue them together, made sure that nothing could leak. And remember, when you're casting resin, if water can leak through the mold, so will the resin. So be extra careful with that. And extra careful, again, if you're using pressure, it's going to push itself into all the little voids. So hot melt glue and a couple of pots, just chop them around until they make sense, until they close nicely. And then once they have, you can then fill them up with your resin. You can see what I've done there. Added the resin, and I let the resin sit for a little bit, so let some of the air bubbles out. Then I've done the pour, and then I let it sit again just for about an hour, and as much of that air to come out as possible. Let those bubbles rise, and a few times I put my mini air gun over the top just to burst some bubbles before I then put it into the pressure pot. Okay, just to give it as much of a chance as possible. And then we broke it out. We've got this lovely lump here. I'm going to turn off the outside skin first. There is an elastic band that held the pencil together. I want to get rid of that. And then I'm just going to true up this bit of timber. These two pieces of timber were put on after. So once I broke it out of the mold, and I put them on with epoxy glue. Don't hot melt glue them. It's not quite a strong enough bond. And I'm going to support this throughout as much as I can. So I've got little to do just being held on one end. So I want to support as much as possible. We're going to drill this out. It's going to be a vase. I've got an idea of what shape I want to do. It's going to be very bulbous with a large top to it. Like I say, mainly shaped between centers. Okay. But being held with a chuck as well. I really want to do that. So, like I say, I don't know what's going to happen yet. This is going to be an extremely messy session. Hence the reason my smock is done all the way up. I'm wearing the visor, and we're going to get some shavings flying. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm a little bit apprehensive, a little bit nervous, but we'll see. So we're about to get started. Any questions before I get the noise and the dust extractor going and all those sorts of things, Ben?
So there's lots of people checking in, saying hello and hi, Colwin. You know, we've got the usual clan. We've got quite a few new people, which is really great to see. And a couple of them saying they're really looking forward to International Talk Like a Pirate Day.
There's so many days that we could mention. Who's on that day then, I wonder, Ben? We'll give that one to Jason.
Yeah.
That is a real thing as well, especially down here. Devon and Cornwall are really into their pirates. So right, let's have a look. Let's get the dust extractor going. Now, to start with, no, before I get the dust extractor going, some cool things that come off of here. Let's just have a look at this. This is really ace. I know it's useless, but look, there's the top of the pencils. I just trimmed these away before starting, so you can see that they are bound together, especially when they're in a solid lump like this one. And I don't know whether you can see that whilst we got that camera. You can just see the elastic band that holds the pencils together. But in terms of tools we're using, I've sharpened a bundle of bowl gouges back there. They're all ready because the resin will take the edge off a little bit more than just standard timber will. But I've also got a couple of carbide tools. So these are the Axminster carbide tools. I've made sure the tips are sharp, and I've got two profiles here. I've got the round, the rougher end, then I've got the square section as well. I'm going to play with those. I'm not, from previous demonstrations that I do, I'm very much traditionalist when it comes to turning timber, and I don't use carbide tips on timber because I've learned to use traditional tools. But when it comes to resin, that's different. Now that's fairly modern sort of material for wood turners, and find that scrapers, especially carbide tip scrapers, work exceptionally well on it. I'm not experienced with them though, so we're going to play. This is as much of a learning curve for me as it is for you guys. So yeah, this should be an interesting project anyway. Right, enough of talking. Let's get the dust extraction going. I'm going to rough down first to a nice cylinder to expose those pencils. I'm going to true up my wood block. We'll get the chuck on, and then we can start the main shaping. So I was just saying to Ben before we went live, it would be really nice for me to be able to just play with this and get an understanding of how this is going to turn in this format with the pencils before we start. We didn't, because we've only done one, so we're about to find out. Here goes. I'll stop after about 5 minutes and we'll just check on questions. Now, I might start sounding a little bit funny, but here we go. Okay, lathe speed to 0, turn the lathe on. And we're going to start just by using the bowl gouge, I think. I'm just going to get a taster for what's happening. So I just want to skim down to a cylinder, like I said. There we are. We're getting there. Well, let's just have a look and see what happens. Now, already I'm getting covered. We got some lovely patterns going on here, so this is quite exciting. Actually, is that it gives us an indication of what's going to happen on the inside. Right, Ben, can you come back to me a minute? Already I'm getting strung up in these types of fibers. Now, I want to just show you something. You can see a lot of raking. You can probably hear a little bit of raking as well when we cut. but you don't have to have that. Let me show you. If you give yourself a nice gentle movement, so don't push too hard, how soft and quiet that is. If I push harder, you get the raking. All right, so if you're gentle with it, you can get a really nice cut and you'll get these shavings come off. So if you push hard, you'll get a lot of rake. I'm not worried whilst we're roughing down, but then when we come to finishing, I want to stop that. Okay, nearly there. Let me turn the speed up. That was on 900. We're going to go up a little bit more, 1200. All right, I think I should have got rid of the, almost. I was going to say, I think I've got rid of the elastic band. I think we need to go a little bit further to do that. Okay, let's just stop there. We have to go a little bit further in a minute, but what we'll do, we'll just take some questions, get rid of all the muck. Whew. Yes, Ben. We're back in the room.
So I've got a question here from Jim B. He's asking, could you define raking?
Raking, yeah. So it's a perfect example, actually, Jim. Again, if we can go to the overhead, can you see those lots? There's like lots of little fissures. So it's where the tool crashes through the epoxy. So raking is literally raking out the surface, sort of thing. So you see all that. Now in pen turning, you'll know raking because you'll get these little breakages almost when you press too hard, or whether you work with a blunt tool. But then when you get those lovely silent cuts, that's properly cutting, and you get then these lovely shavings come off. A raking shaving is a chip rather than a shaving like that, you see. So if you hear a rake, you'll get lots of little chips and no shavings like this. All right.
And then Fuller's asking, how do you get rid of the swarf responsibly?
It's non-recyclable at the moment. We've had lots of conversations about this. At the moment, ECOPOXY is a grown product. So 80% of the makeup of ECOPOXY is made from a plant. It's grown. But when it's set, it's still the same substance. It's non-recyclable. So it is, at the moment, it's put into your regular waste. It's a landfill, I guess. So at the moment, there is no green disposal of it.
And then Sol's picked up on the fact, like we were talking before with the helmet on, it sounds a bit like Darth Vader. But acted by David Prowse, the original voice.
You just said I sounded sexy.
Okay, what have we got here?
I have a mission on every live stream is to make Ben laugh.
Where are we? Do you know from Michael? Do you know if we're going to start selling pressure pots?
I don't. I would hope so. We've had lots of conversation about it. We're trying to source at the moment, source the right pressure pots, and ideally, we're trying to source fairly locally to Axminster in Devon. So in the UK, basically, we're trying to we're trying to do everything at the moment just to keep the carbon footprint down and everything. But it's difficult. It's difficult, you know, if they're not made here, we can't buy from here. But just watch the space. No short-term solution, unfortunately.
And the Wizen Chef, that rings a bell. He said he's got something to send you. Could he send it to the Sittingbourne store and get it to us that way?
Absolutely. Yeah. As long as it's not ticking, that's fine. Right then, we'll start again. A little bit further this time. I'm just going to clean that bottom up. So this is the gouge that I've just been using, and it's fairly blunt. Just shows you how quickly it will take the finish off. Right, I think we're there. That's good. I just want to use the parting tool now just to clean up the very underside, so I get a slightly recessed base. There we are. So that's good to hold in the chuck. So what we're going to do, we'll take it out of here. And we'll pop the chuck on. There it is. Oh, something's quite done. Right, I'm just bottoming out there, so let me just center. There we are. So good and firm. There. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to have a go with one of the carbide tools. Dust extraction run again. Let's go with the square to start with. And have another look. Oh, we're almost there. In fact, I think I'm going to leave that because in our shape, this is going to be curved in slightly. So we're going to leave that there. Now, I haven't told you yet, but we've got over 170 pencil crayons in this project. So there's quite a lot. Let's go with, I'm going to use the round scraper now, just to start thinking about that top neck.
We're getting some really interesting sort of shaping going on here, or not shaping, but the effects that are coming through. I just wanted to stop to check to make sure my resin's got in there nicely, and it has gone down a nice long way. So let's profile the top. I want to work out where I can start shaping. So I'm just going to use this square scraper again. Well, a little bit further. I just want to get rid of this fissure here. Right, back to our bowl gouge a minute. Now, I'm going to start doing some more aggressive shaping again. So, into the neck. Stop and have another check, and I'll turn the dust extractor off and we'll start doing a few more questions. Yes, Ben.
So first question from Fuller. He's asking, do the regular scrapers, like the high-speed steel scrapers, work as well as the carbide ones?
The issue you'll have here with a regular scraper, they're quite aggressive. So you'll find that that raking that you get, that you may have heard there, that'll be more extreme. So you've got to be very, very careful. Probably the better thing to do would be a skew, lie flat, and then just put a secondary bevel on the top of your regular scraper just to calm it down. Even on some of the carbide tips, I tend to go for negative rake as well. On carbide, it's just a slightly friendlier cut. So that's the reason, really. Just be a little bit careful of that, that's all. That can be quite aggressive scrapes.
And then we've got another one from Fuller here, a little bit off topic, but have you ever done metal spinning with aluminium, shallow bowls and plates and stuff?
I've done a fair bit of metal spinning, if I'm honest, but only to make cups for big candlesticks. If you're making big candlesticks with big candles, to find a barrier between the candle and the timber is not easy to buy off the shelf, and if you do, they can be extremely expensive. So I like to use either copper or pewter or aluminium, like you say, and they spin quite easily. And I use my regular tools. So I basically glazed over one of my old bowl gouges, and I use that, and I use the pressure from my hand. It's quite a tough thing to do. You have to exert a lot of pressure, but create your metal former. And then push around that. We may do something on that in the future. It's quite an interesting process, and it also frees you up to do a few other things and embellish your work in other ways as well. Yeah.
And then the Wisen Chef's asking about a finish for a Burlwood pen. He says he knows it's not crayon related, but he's struggling to find one that brings out the best in the grain for a fountain pen he's doing.
Whilst I go and get some more gouges, you can answer that one.
Thanks. So usually I would use like a friction polish, but I find in like a burl and things like that, it does tend to kind of pool in those kind of open areas. Have a look at the CA finishes. because that dries, you know, really clear, and you can get a really good finish on it or polish on it. But yeah, I haven't done much with the burl. I've done a Thoya burl pen, but I think I did that in a friction polish. What would you say was a good finish for a burr or barrel?
So CA, like you said, friction polish is good, but you know it's not hugely. It doesn't last for ages. I would go something like acrylic or melamine lacquers. If you're willing to wait for them to dry, then they'll be your hardest wearing lacquers of all. And then you can burnish them back as well. So put on a melamine, for instance, let it dry, burnish it back with burnishing cream. You get a really, really good finish. All right. Right, I'm going to finish shaping the outside of this, or majority of the outside, before we do too much, because I still want to not hollow out completely, but we will still want to put a drill hole down through. So we're getting there. I'm loving the shape that's going on, but a little bit more to do. So I'm liking that. I'm liking the shape. I'm liking the colors. So I think if we now start to bring the shape over, then we can hollow out, and then we can think about maybe doing some sanding on this piece. That's absolutely blunt. Let's go to another one. Okay, we are nearly there. What I'm going to do is just refine this shape here, but not take it any further just yet, because then we can hollow this out and then finish that that back curve. So
Again, I'm going to another tool which is sharp. Good. Okay, let's just shift all my tools from the lathe. There we go. Right then, so let's think about a drill. Oh, before we carry on, do a few more questions whilst I'm setting up for the drill. Yes, Ben.
Good time. We got a drilling question. So this is from Without Doors. It says, "Hey, can you use auger bits when drilling out, even with the screw feed on the drill bit?"
It starts to get a little bit dodgy when you have a screw feed on the drill bit, because it will pull itself in so quickly. What you will probably do is pull out the drill chuck from the Morse taper. So I'd be a little bit careful using auger bits that have that lead-in thread. Like I say, it probably take it out of your control.
And the sort of second part of that question: how big realistically could you go? The reason being is they don't have many long shaft Forstner bits for vases. How big on the head of the Forstner bit?
Well, it's a well-timed question, that one, because I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, actually, have I got enough wall thickness to be using that bit? I'm going to chance it. To be honest, we're going to go for it. That one at the moment is 25 mils, an inch, and we probably got about 35. Well, let's measure it. About 35 mil of total neck. No, sorry, 43 of total neck with a 25 mil drill bit. So let's have a look. We'll see in a minute.
And are you using this from Roger? Are you using a negative rake carbide cut?
I was for on the round one, but not on the square chisel. So yeah, so yes and no. All right, so I'm going to start drilling, keeping everything crossed. And I'm not going to go in too far with this. It's just dried flower vase, this one, so I'm not going to go in too far. Keep clearing this wall. No different. You know, I would say probably 70% timber, this project, because of the pencils. There we are. That's our drill point done. I'm going to keep the tailstock there because I'm going to go back to the tailstock, and we're going to support once again in a minute. Let's just stop that. We'll get the dust extraction gun. I just want to blend this curve in a little bit more. So I'm not going to do too much. It's not, it's not going to let me do too much. There is some thickness there, but it's not overly strong. So let's go with a nice small gouge, gentle cuts. And also, demo wouldn't be right without one of the signature hues creeping in somewhere. Which is, of course, negative rate scraper. Let's just have a look. Now, if you can have a look in from that end, Ben, I think that looks quite cool. Looks quite psychedelic almost. So what we'll do now, we'll go with a regular ring center. We'll add a little bit of tissue in there. A little squash ball or something like that would be good at this stage, but we'll go with our regular tissue. Yes, Ben?
So Fuller's asking, is it possible to make the inside of the vase water resistant by introducing mixed liquid resin while the lathe's turning very slowly?
Well, I wouldn't do it with the lathe running, but what I would do once you've done that is go with your resin like you're suggesting, and just turn it, by hand, and just then let it sit. Obviously, pour out the excess, that sort of thing. But yeah, absolutely right, Fuller. So all I've done there, a little bit of tissue just to support it. I'm going to start thinking about this side now and get that shape fully formed, and then we can add a little bit of abrasive. I'm absolutely aware that the pencil crayons will lose some color into the surrounding timber, but not enough to worry about, so we're okay with that. I haven't put too much pressure on here either. I didn't want to exert too much. We're going to go with a parting tool also. Parting tool and a side scrape as well. So a side scrape is just literally using the side of the tool to scrape as you cut forward. Going through these tools fairly rapidly. Again, we need to go for a sharper one. Right, that's a little bit further. Right, I'm going to stop there. I'm really happy with the shape. It's the dumpy sort of vase I was looking for. So what we'll do is we'll start doing a bit of sanding. Stop and show you first and get the dust extractor going. Really pretty looking piece, actually. If we sand the outside form first, then we'll just take the tailstock away to sand that, put this back on. We'll take the this little foot away a bit further before parting off. I don't think I'm going to part off live on the lathe. I'll see how I feel as we get close to that point. there shouldn't be a region that I have any more issues, but we'll see. So dust extraction. So let's do some questions before the dust extractor goes on.
Terry's asking, oh, sorry, there's a poll just popped up in front. Let me get back to that. When they do a face cut, it gets a lot of bounce and chatter the closer it gets to the center. Is there any kind of...
I would guess this is on a bowl. And if that's the case, it'd be bevel bounce. That's a little bit too much pressure on the bevel. That's all that is generally. And that it's one of those things that will disappear as time goes on, as you get used to the tool a bit more. But yeah, bevel bounce is a known phenomenon in wood turning, yes.
And then Jed's asking, around Easter time, could we perhaps do a turning video on how to turn a rabbit? Have you turned a rabbit?
Well, why not? We've done everything else. We've done penguins and we've done weebles. Why not we turn a rabbit? I know where you're coming from. And I've seen them before. Yeah, I get you. That would be a good one. Easter time. We're full up and we're full to Easter, aren't we? Yeah. But that doesn't matter. Rabbits aren't just for Easter. We can make them whenever, can't we? Yeah, of course. I'll put that in the list. Right, I think Jason's turn to turn something like that, isn't it? Jason should turn a rabbit. He's not here, so let's talk for him. Right, dust extraction going on. We'll do a little bit of sanding.
We're going to start with 150 grit and work our way through. I'm just going to have a look and see what's happening at the moment. I can see all sorts of sort of funky colours coming off. So let's just have a look and see what's happening here. It's actually sounding really, really well. I'm quite chuffed about that. I thought I was going to lose a lot of colour into the wood, but it's not. So I haven't forgot we're going to do that bit as well in a minute. But there we are. That was a 150. Let's go 240. $400. Yeah. Like that. Right, okay. Let's just remove the tailstock. Check to make sure it's all still secure, and we'll sand that front face. We're not going anywhere. Oh, we're starting with the wrong grit. 150. Now 240. Let's get some of that dust out before we start thinking about a finish. There we are. So that's 240. Let's go 400. And then I'll go over everything then with a 6. Yeah, like that. Okay. Let's we'll put some finishing. I was going to say finishing oil. We're going to go food safe oil because that's the one the closest to hand at the moment. But it doesn't really matter. A oil of some sort, and then I'll put this back on, and we'll start thinking about parting off. Then, okay. So a little bit of tissue. What a fun project, really. I'll be honest with you, a little bit apprehensive before I started this one, but it's not such a bad thing.
Yeah, you got any questions there, Ben, whilst we're doing this bit?
Yeah, Terry's asking, is there ever any danger of the color blending when you're sanding?
Yeah, there is. I guess it depends on the pencil crayons that you use. This is acting quite nicely. It's behaving. As you get, the finer grades, you should get. It should be better because you haven't got big tears to fill with the color. But this is actually behaving quite well. I done a little bottle stopper not that long ago with the same sort of technique, and it did start to lose some of its color in the smaller areas. So the other tip here is something that I've noticed fairly quickly is use your abrasive when it's live. So don't use dull abrasive, otherwise that smears the color in, sort of thing. So I was using the fresh areas all the time. Look how amazing that color jumps out the minute you put oil on it. Really pretty. Oil's the chosen finish, really. It blends into the pencils and gives the resin a little bit of life.
And then Sleeping Dog's asking, are you getting much color bleed on this one?
No.
He finds that sanding sealer helps.
Yeah, sanding sealer would be a good idea. The only issue, I don't know what you found, Sleeping Dog, but sanding sealer on resin, does that work? Does it come off? I don't know how that would work. I've only ever used oil on resin, if I'm honest, on rivet tables and everything like that, unless you're doing another clear glaze on top. And there we are. Look, especially around this area, that's come up beautiful. I like that. Really interesting. Okay, lathe speed is 0. Turn the lathe on. Then I'm just going to do a little bit of burnishing here. Well, not burnishing, but just making sure it's getting into the grain. I'll let that dry. Now, if I was honest with you now, and I always am, I would walk away from the lathe now, let this set for about 24 hours, come back, and that's the oil I'm talking about. Come back and probably give it another coat, and that'll make things even brighter. I'm not going to do that, of course. We're just going to leave it there. That's our single coat. I allow the fact that it's still tacky. It's not set yet, that oil. But what I'd like to do is just take that off the lathe. So I'm just going to support again with the tailstock. And what I'm going to do, I have decided, because it's quite firm, we are going to part off live on the lathe. All right, so just supporting a little bit. And go for a slightly smaller, well, a very small tool rest.
Got a couple more questions in, Colin. You all right to answer?
Yeah,
questions?
Go for it. Yeah.
So one from Fuller. What type of oils are suitable on resin?
So the one that we're using there is food safe oil, but finishing oil works well. Any of the citric oils, so like lemon oil, that sort of thing, they all work.
And what about bits of the flying lead? This is from Sleeping Dog. Yeah, how about bits of flying lead?
Was like bits of flying timber. It's the same sort of thing. I've got the dust extraction on for all of the turning of that, and for that very reason, just to make sure it disappears, it goes away from me. But as you can see here, most of it's held on. There's the odd little bit right on the corners that have come out. But dust extraction has taken most of it, any of the shavings, things like that. Most of it's on the floor. There's not any big particles down there that have come off, really. So I think the resin's holding it all together quite well.
And Sol's asking, could it be hollowed out?
Yeah, I guess so. You have to You see how cautious I'm being here, because I'm not confident, because I haven't done enough of these to know that this area by the chuck is actually going to be strong enough whilst I do that sort of process. But if you left it big enough there, then hollow out, yeah, I'm sure. As long as your resin has actually managed to impregnate all of these little areas, these little voids, as long as that's happened, then you should be fine. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Dust extracting again. We're going to start parting off and we'll finish this piece.
Okay, that's as far as I dare go whilst being supported. So what we'll do now, let's turn that one off again, take that away. We're going to part off on the lathe, so still secure. Make sure you've got one hand fully supporting. And all that's going to happen is this will stop in our hands, hopefully. There we are. A little bit of a nib to clean up there. We'll do that. We'll just clean that up a second, and then that's that project done. I'll just take that out. Get our sanding head.
Go on, I've got another question here.
Yeah, go for it.
There's one from Jed. He's asking about the wood. What's the wood called, which is paneling the room?
Oh, this so this tongue and groove, it's just a regular building softwood. So it's just a tongue and groove. We then put a dye over the top of it. That's all. Then nothing else. Just a simple wood dye. Make it look nice, warm. Okay, a bit more dust extraction. Just whilst I do this last little bit of sanding. That's fair. That was a 180. Let's go down nice and fine. Just a little bit more oil just to finish the bottom. It's my favorite side, is by far the resin side.
There we are. So I would give that, like I say, give it about 24 hours, give it a bit of a buff up, either with a polishing mop or just by hand, bit of elbow grease and tissue. And that's it. That's your vase. So let's do a few more questions whilst we're there. Let's get a clean bit of tissue to wipe it off. There we are. Proper, pretty, full of colour little project, that one. Excellent. Yes, Ben, got a few questions.
Okay, yes, I've got some questions. First one's from Donna. What do you do with all the finished projects? Do they go in a gallery?
No, they don't go in a gallery. There's a lot of people around here that that come in and things go missing, don't they? In a nice way. No, they make it to some of the shelves outside. We have a little stand up in the canteen area here at Axminster, Christmas time, where people are welcome to take bits to give as presents. We usually charge a small amount for that, and that goes to our supported charity every year, which changes year on year. So a lot of it goes to that. Yeah, and just giving away that sort of stuff. This will be up on the shelf because it's a one-off. Anything that we make, which we haven't done before, we tend to leave up on the shelves. Just as a reminder, I've got a Weeble behind me over there. I've got several penguins, spiral goblets, and R2D2 spaceships, all those sorts of things that we don't do that often. Yes, Ben.
And then Gav's asking about your sanding pad there. Do we sell it? Does it come as part of something else?
It does. Yeah, sanding pad is part of the deluxe sanding bowl sander, and this little sander here comes with 2 of the 75mm and 2 of the 50mm pads, and you can just swap them out, take one out, and put the neck size in, sort of thing. So if I want to go 50mm or 2-inch, I can pop that one in, and we're all there for smaller bowls, sort of thing. So yeah, and it happens to fit inside of all of our jaws, which is a really good feature as well.
And then Malcolm's asking, could you lay the pencils the other way?
Yeah, the thing is, once it's encapsulated in resin, you can do whatever you want with it. I'm doing a few projects at the moment. Now, if anybody's interested to see the whole process from start to finish, we're doing a recorded and edited vase as well. So that will be coming out in in a few weeks, actually, because we're only starting it this week. And that's going to be out of some old dead oak. That's been really, really weathered. So we're going to play with that. And that's going to be the mixing, the making the mold, and the actual turning of the thing, the whole process. So that'll be coming out in a few weeks.
And Maria says she's glad to hear that you didn't burn the Weeble.
No, the Weeble is still staring at me as we speak, Maria. All right. Okay, then, guys. Well, look, thank you ever so much for putting up with me again for another I want to say Turning Tuesday, but it's not, is it? It's our Wednesday. Just to mark International Pencil Day, like I said, every 30th of March, it's the same. So join us again tomorrow. I think we have, it's Jason's turn tomorrow, isn't it? What's Jason doing tomorrow, Ben? Do you know? We never know. We're all too engrossed in doing our own thing. That's the thing. Next week, I'm going to be looking at some Chromacraft products, and we're going to be playing around with stencils to embellish a bowl. So I'm really excited about that one as well. Lots of things happening at the moment. We'll fill you in as the weeks go on. But thanks again very much. If you like what you see, give us a thumbs up, share, subscribe, all the usual things. But until next time, thank you very much and goodbye.